Just finishing off my morning coffee here. There you go, get a little sip. Hey, when was the last time you got a nice, simple commentary from me? I mean, it's been a while, hasn't it? Normally after I finish a really big project, I get a little bit burnt out on either playing TF2 or editing in general, so I figure we'll just have a nice chit-chat as I sit down in front of an open mic and just share my thoughts on something. And today, the topic is Scream Fortress, but I'm gonna give a little bit of a warning. This is me mostly sharing negative opinions, I guess as usual, so those with weaker constitutions, just turn away now. I know my stances on TF2 have been overly negative in recent years. I honestly don't think there's been a lot of good going on for TF2 since, 2018. That's the nature of a dead game, and dead meaning there's effectively no dev support aside from Eric Smith copying and pasting stuff into the game, and that's it. But if I don't address what I consider to be problems, then that guarantees nothing will change. If that means, you're gonna be upset, whatever, but I think it makes what you're about to hear at least fair, alright? That said, have you guys ever heard the phrase, you can't have too much of a good thing? Well, it turns out that to anyone with common sense, this is just not true. Of course you can have too much of a good thing. The most universal example of this is cake. Cake is good. Everyone loves cake. 99% of people watching right now love some kind of dessert, right? Alright, how about a slice? Well, damn good stuff, sign me up. Well, alright then, if you like the first one so much, how about a second slice? And then a third, or a fourth? Why not have cake every day? Have it after every meal. It's good, right? More of a good thing is better. Well, it's not true. Eventually, you're gonna get so chock full of cake, you're either gonna get fat or sick at the sight of the stuff. Moderation and restriction are basic life rules to follow. It keeps the consumption of good things healthy. It keeps good things special. And in my eyes, the cake of Team Fortress 2 is Scream Fortress. I've been playing TF2 since 2010, and I've always loved Scream Fortress, but this was the first year where I've had effectively zero desire to engage with the update. I only just now started touching a few of the contracts. I don't want any of the new cosmetics aside from one unusual effect which kind of looks like fried chicken now that someone pointed that out. I've been wrestling with articulating my reasoning as to why I'm not interested in Scream Fortress, but the best I can come up with is that it's simply become too much. Scream Fortress isn't special anymore. Aside from the bots, of course, which make playing any new content akin to slamming your head against a brick wall and expecting it to move, I'm burnt out. And now before people, explode in the comments, oh, if you're burnt out, just take a break. Let me explain. From 2009 to 2014, Scream Fortress shipped as a really tight and cohesive update. Every update had an overarching theme. It was made by Valve, and it wasn't just Halloween, it was Halloween in TF2. Each year's theme was directly tied to one brand new Valve-made map, with the exception of Man Manor, of course. And one map was all we needed. Halloween theming with an engaging and fun gimmick that was a fucking wild deviation from normal TF2. It started simple, of course, it was just a reskin of Harvest, and you had the ghost of Zephaniah Man, the father of the Mann brothers, haunting around the map. Avoid the ghost of the father of your employers, otherwise you're gonna get spooked. But then it got more complex. We got Man Manor the next year in 2010. That, it turned the facilities of Mountain Lab into Redmond Man's mansion. The Mercs fight off the Horseless Headless Horseman, the reanimated brother of Zephaniah Man, rampaging around and wrecking havoc. Ioduct, fighting off the haunted left eye of the Demo Man, turned into this gargantuan horror by Marasmus's Abominomicon, whose pupil opens a portal to the purple bowels of hell itself. What the fuck, man? This is fucking wild, but it was fun. And then we got Ghost Fort, where you fight Marasmus himself and are subject to his rather, let's say, comedic sorcery. And then we got Hell Tower, pushing the Mann brothers' corpses into hell. But now, with the very magic you fought against last year at your disposal. And of course, Carnival of Carnage. We don't talk about that one. I apologize for the brief history lesson which effectively amounted to a Wikipedia page read, but the point of reiterating all that is that all of these maps were curated and built to mesh into TF2. Not just as it's kooky Halloween fun time, but they were unique and really heavily tailored experiences. They were fun, they were engaging, and very much replayable. I still go back and replay all these old maps when I can. They still hold up. Pretty much during the entirety of Scream Fortress, I live on Man Manor. It's my favorite Halloween map.
I'm talking about drawing a line in the sand, dude.
But back in the day, we got one map and that's it. Done. And then we waited in anticipation for next year. What the hell was Valve gonna pull off next? But then in 2015, we saw a massive shift with how Valve handled pretty much all new content. From this point forward, Valve went completely hands-off with Scream Fortress. They began incorporating only community-made maps, which is totally fine, don't get me wrong. Man Manor is community-made, and it's my favorite Scream Fortress map. But what happened is that Scream Fortress updates lost their uniqueness. They lost their novelty almost immediately. Before, we got one heavily tailored map, curated map, that was built with intention, and it was this themed centerpiece for an entire update. But in 2015, we got 4 maps. Well, we got 5 if you count the Manpower map, but at that point Manpower was already dead in the water. None of these new maps felt special. There was no central unifying theme or reasoning other than, look, it's Halloween again. All of these maps recycled previous year's gimmicks, either for a bland reskin of an existing map or some kind of horrendous clusterfuck. And then the following year, we got 3 maps, and then later on we got 5, and then we got 6, and then 6 again. And this year, 12 fucking maps. From 2009 to 2014, just to put this into perspective, we got 6 Scream Fortress maps. From 2015 to 2023, you wanna guess how many Halloween maps we've received? Your guess is probably wrong. 43. We've received 43 Scream Fortress maps. That's too fucking many. Nothing stands out anymore. It all gets blended together in this ocean of pumpkins and ghosts and spells and gimmicks and bosses, without any kind of meaning or purpose. You could enjoy every single one of these maps, but even for those people, you have to admit, it's getting really tired. It's getting a little bit burnt out. Before all this, we had TF2 Halloween maps, right? You know, it was the Horsemen, we had the Mann Brothers, and Monoculus, and Marasmus. Sure, it was goofy, but it was all still tied to TF2 with intention. But now we just have Halloween maps. We got Giant Frankenstein, okay, Scarecrows, sure, I guess, Davy Jones, generic zombies, fish people, alright, a sandcastle. Great, yeah, sandcastle. Okay, yeah, I would say the charm is gone for Scream Fortress if this is what's considered Halloween at this point. Aside from the charm being gone, of course, Valve very obviously doesn't playtest anything anymore. So it's a total crapshoot from a quality standpoint with each passing update. You honestly can't expect for Valve to throw in 12 maps and have all of them be of the utmost quality. From 2015 moving forward, I'll consider those the modern Halloween maps. Many of them recycle the same gimmicks from previous years, oftentimes copy and pasting them into environments that were not built to handle them from a balancing standpoint, let alone optimization. And this results in a disastrously awful experience. I'm looking at you, Bloodwater. Looking at you, Hassel Castle and Sunshine. Many mappers also quickly reskin their existing non-Halloween maps for a shot at getting thrown into an update. And this brings about similar issues. Other maps consist of horrifically poor layouts that were awful to begin with, before texturing even took place, whose terrible gameplay is then amplified by gimmick bloat. These maps might look nice, but they play like absolute shit. Sometimes. Thank God. Usually one map a year, maybe one map every couple of years, we get one really solid experience by what seems like a total accident, like Crasher or Monster Bash, that would have performed as the perfect centerpieces for an individual Scream Fortress update. You know, if it had the right theming or the right story behind it. They have a really cool gimmick or a unique layout or design, something that makes them really stand out from the rest. But without the backing of Valve, it's all lost. I'll just say it, even though people get really mad at the notion of this, we have too many maps. We've received far too many, far too quickly, especially for Scream Fortress, to where the charm is just gone. Many of the maps being objectively terrible, and the good, high-quality selections are just diluted amongst those. This bloat of maps has only been made worse by the fact we receive 3 Scream Fortresses per year now. We've always got Halloween, but then in 2019 we started getting Christmas, and now it seems like we're always gonna get summer. 99% of Christmas maps are fucking awful. And hell, we're on track to receive 30 maps this year, guys. We already got 26. 26 maps in 1 year. That's insane. I mean, what other games are handled like this? If you exclude Arena Mode and Man vs. Machine, TF2 has 139 maps, with almost 50% of those added within the last 4 years. 20% of those added just this year. What the fuck? Regardless of holiday restrictions, this is fucking ridiculous and not healthy for the game. There's the mechanical issues brought about by more maps. We already have a small player base that averages, what, about 60,000 players outside of the first couple of weeks of an update? We have this small player base that gets spread out too thin across too many maps, which results in more half-empty servers that then get filled by bots, ultimately resulting in longer queue times as more and more people just keep requeuing. Then you have the physical bloat of the game's file size, which keeps going up and up and up as Valve throws on more junk. We have objectively terrible maps that take up visual real estate, and of course, lower the quality bar for future content selected by Valve. Oh hey, you want to do a specific contract for a map you enjoy? Well, sorry, you gotta slog through 8 other ones before you can touch it. They will run out of room on this contractor, dude. It's already impossible to finish all these contracts unless you're unemployed. There's what, 150 individual goals now? Jesus Christ. And of course, the unrelated but ever so present issue that Valve refuses to address, bots, which flood into new maps and make engaging with new content a chore rather than fun. Also, hey, when did TF2 become Gary's mod? Are we gonna get a new VScript game mode every update now? I sure as hell hope not, because what's next? Jailbreak? Roleplay servers? Prop hunt? Well, we already have prop hunt. We gonna get one for Christmas too? We gonna get something like Santa Claus's Elf on a Shelf sack race? Holy fuck. I understand wanting new gameplay experiences, but these game modes really don't feel like TF2 anymore. Versus Saxon Hill is one thing, but Zombie Infection? This really isn't TF2. I'm sorry. It's gonna suffer from the same problem as Manpower and Pastime, where other people wanted to inject some other game into TF2, but they didn't want to start from scratch, so they used TF2 as an existing base to kind of create and mold their own vision. But because people want to engage and play TF2, all these old game modes are just gonna die out. This brings up the other issue that isn't just tonal appropriateness for the game. I'm genuinely worried about all of these new game modes because, again, most maps and new game modes are not playtested to ensure that they're balanced, let alone functional. Versus Saxon Hail was broken for 2 weeks. Zombie Infection was also broken on launch. And yeah, sure, all these new game modes are really cool at surface level, but they're a hot fucking mess. Even after a couple rounds of balance changes, they still need so much more playtesting before they're even in a remotely acceptable state. Zombie Infection was developed in 6 months. How the hell did Valve expect for this to mesh perfectly into the game that's been heavily tailored and balanced for over a decade? It makes no sense. Why the fuck is this happening? Well, I can tell you why. It's because Valve now treats maps like hats. To Valve, maps have become another toy to market TF2. Rather than preserving them for what they really are, which is the gameplay itself, they now consider maps another trinket to entice people to engage with an update. Hence why we've been getting more and more and more. Just like taunts, just like unusual effects, it's more little keys to dangle in our face so we play with all the new stuff and give them our money. Given that, instead of providing constant support and fixes for pre-established content, most map makers are incentivized to drop everything and then move on to the next map project for the next update, because that means another paycheck in their pockets from key sales. Working on older maps doesn't bring in new money for the next wave of content. So as soon as new maps or new game modes get slapped into the game, they're totally forgotten. Versus Saxon Hail is fucking dead. We're likely never gonna get another Versus Saxon Hail map again, let alone any balance changes or fixes. I mean, not that people wanted this game mode in the first place. And the same thing's gonna happen for Zombie Infection after Scream Fortress ends. Maybe we'll get a trickle of a fix here or there in the following months, but that's it. All of these new game modes are gonna end up dead in the water. And now that I'm working on this in post, this decided to happen last night. Now listen, whenever mappers decide to push out changes, it's almost always a good thing. You got the guys over at Zombie Infection still pushing out fixes for their new game mode to make sure that it's as good as possible before the update ends, and that's great. This is what, the 3rd or 4th round of changes they pushed out? That's great, guys. Keep it up. You're gonna make it as good as possible before you decide to move on to the next thing. But then we have these changes made to Soul Mill. Why the fuck did you add spells and the Skeleton King, and additional skeletons. What the fuck were you thinking? Did you playtest this? Did you ensure that all of these new additions were going to be totally fine and not turn the map into a complete clusterfuck? Obviously not, because congratulations, that's what it is now. Soul Mill was already one of the more tolerable reskins we had for Scream Fortress, and now it's completely insufferable. This just reinforces that they don't try anything before they put it into the game. I mean, obviously, look, we have missing fucking textures. There's broken shit on the map, and this was already in the game for what, a couple of years now? What the fuck is going on? Listen, not every Halloween map needs to have 5 gimmicks layered on top of it, especially if the base map was not designed to handle them in the first place. You gotta test this shit out before deciding to saying, fuck it, put it on there anyway. I've seen nothing but an overwhelmingly large outcry to these changes for this map because the map was totally fine to begin with. You didn't need to throw this on there. Again, what the fuck were you thinking? Put it back. Seriously, put it back. You can't do this with TF2 maps. New gameplay experiences must be of the highest quality and maintained to ensure proper balancing and flow. It is the gameplay. You can't treat them like hats. It might look nice at face value, but it has to play right. And when the gameplay sucks, a map is objectively bad, no matter how much visual polish it has. It's lipstick on a pig. Let me name a few. You got Bloodwater, Hassel Castle, Sinshine, any map ending in stone, any ICS map for that matter, Precipice the Hallway Spell Spam Hell, Bonesaw, the 14 frame per second Spaghetti Bowl, the Broken on Launch, poorly balanced shitfest that was Zombie Infection. Toss 5 more maps on that pile. So what is that? A third of Halloween maps? And that was what, 15, 20 seconds? Arguments could be made for others if I took my time. We simply have too many maps. I know I've said this like 3 or 4 times, but we have too many maps. And when Valve keeps throwing in content willy-nilly without testing to ensure that the gameplay experiences are of the utmost quality or even bothering to maintain or fix their issues, it's a problem. It just gives us more bloat and it results in burnout for a lot of people. I'm sure most of you listening right now who've been playing for a long time are very much burnt out on Scream Fortress. And hell, I haven't even talked about cosmetics yet. Remember when Scream Fortress cosmetics used to be Halloween restricted? That's what made them special. But now, 95% of new Halloween editions are available year-round. Why? Why is this Halloween restricted, but not this? And listen, in my ideal world, Valve would have kept up with Halloween restrictions. That restriction made these cosmetics special, for Halloween only. Moreover, classic Scream Fortress cosmetics were themed as Halloween costumes, where it was very obviously the mercs dressing up as something for Halloween. You had Soldier as a robot, Medic as a mad scientist, Mummy Scout, Werewolf Demo Man. They were simple, they were fun, they were charming, even the little paper bag masks. They all felt like Halloween costumes, rather than just generically Halloween-themed trinkets, random tacky crap thrown on the mercs' bodies. We get that, and the occasional broken-up costume set, or whatever the fuck this is. We went from cozy costumes to 45-cent Party City masks and toys. There's just no love or thought anymore. Content curation entirely lies on Valve, and because we only have one person working on the game, Eric Smith, he just picks whatever he thinks is appropriate and tosses it into the game. The dude works on coding. He didn't design TF2 from a visual standpoint. He just picks stuff off the workshop and puts it in the game and has to communicate with like the tens and nearly 100 people that's made all this stuff to ensure that all the gears keep turning. It's too much for one guy, and Valve's never gonna put someone else on it. It's really frustrating. It's so frustrating to see where TF2 is right now in that regard. It deserves so many more people working on it because of how popular it is and because of how much money it makes. Could you imagine if we had like 2 or 3 more people working on the game right now? How much better content would be? How much more tight updates would be? Hell, with that many people, we might eventually get fixes for cheaters or bots or other issues in the game. It's just one person is not enough. And what we've been getting is the result of what one person can muster. And listen, I'm not dogging Eric Smith. He's doing quite literally the best he can with everything else he has on his plate, and I've said this before. Thanks, dude. You're quite honestly the only guy that's keeping the gears turning on this game. It fucking sucks. And honestly, this high volume of stuff getting thrown into the game is resulting in a genuinely lower quality experience for everybody in the long run. But no one really pays attention to this because they're all swept up in the hype of a new update. And by the time it starts to stink, well, it's already time for the next update. Only around February through June do people really start coming around to TF2's lack of care. And then it's all forgotten again. again once the shiny new toys are dropped into our laps as the next update cycle begins. Remember last year when we were all screaming at Valve during the whole Save TF2 thing and we were kind of pushing for Valve to, hey, pay a little bit more attention to this game? I guess all that's forgotten now because we got the funny seal. Oh, fuck me, dude. TF2 is now suffering from what I like to call forced immortality, and that dictates that as much stuff get thrown into the game as possible for short-term pulses of engagement and revenue. It's become yet another desperate game grasping for relevancy as it slowly crushes itself under its own weight. And that makes me sad. You can't just keep pumping toys into the game without rhyme or reason and expect for it to live forever. It's not going to. I miss the old Scream Fortress. I miss old updates in general. They were tight, they were fun, they were memorable, and they weren't this. I seriously hope this fire hose of content isn't the new norm, but it really seems like it is, and it's not gonna get any better. Everything is losing its charm. It's too much of a good thing. Getting a little bit, it's just too much. There's something to be said for restricting the amount of content that gets into a game. If you just open up all the hatches and fire hose content into a game, nothing is special anymore. I mean, fuck, look at Fortnite. You can play as Goku fighting Optimus Prime as Keanu Reeves builds a little hut and then gets fucked by My Little Pony. I don't fucking know what's in that game. Like Lil Rizzy or Lil Pump, whatever the fucking these rappers' names are, like bumbling around the candy cane, smacking the shit out of, I don't know, like Naruto or something. Or it's like, what happens? This is what happens with games when they keep trying to draw as many people in as possible. Everything loses what makes it special because in the eyes of people who have like a surface level enjoyment of the game, oh, it's just more toys. It's more shit to play with. I'll get back to that. Hold on. I'll get back to that because I made the mistake of posting my thoughts on Twitter. I thought this was an innocuous observation that we have too many maps in the game, right? And if we have too many of a good thing or just too many maps in general, it loses its charm. That was my point. But good lord, people lost their minds over this tweet. I don't get it. And listen, I totally expect the reductive tribalism on Twitter or social media in general. It doesn't surprise me anymore. But Jesus fuck, some of these people are genuine morons. Look at this shit. Oh, he doesn't want new content. No, you slack-jawed halfwit. Of course I want updates and new content, but I also want some curation, some quality control. That's the solution. That's all I've been pushing for as of late. Scream Fortress desperately needs it. And yes, I'm gonna single out this guy because this one's my fucking favorite. Are the bad maps in the room with us? Yeah. Map quality isn't subjective. If a map plays like ass, it is ass. You can't seriously tell me that maps like Erebus and other ICS maps and company are, totally fine. They're objectively fucking terrible. Oh, we'll just ignore all that and just only queue for what you like. Well, okay, then by that logic, let's have 20 reskins of the same map. 20 reskins of the same unusual. We already kind of have a bloat of unusual effects. I'm gonna make another video about that separately. It's like, fuck it, 20 reskins of the same map. Hell, we already have what? 4 for Sawmill, 3 for Gravel Pit? Fuck it. Why not have Scream Fortress every week? Why not every day? I mean, more is better, right? Who cares about quality or redundancy or bloat so long as you're engaged by the immediacy of something novel? I mean, just ignore it if you don't like it. More is always good in the moment, right? Who cares about negative impacts in the long run or subjective quality so long as someone is having fun? To me, this is a selfish child's view of the world. It's the viewpoint of someone that only has a surface level engagement with TF2, or really anything else. They don't really appreciate it for what it is, or where it came from. It's like normie tier shit. They kind of go, oh yeah, that's cool, and they kind of dabble in it, then they fuck off, right? They don't really adopt it as what it is. They either want it to change to appeal to what they find appealing, or they just kind of fuck off and ignore it, right? It's that, where's that comic where you have people enjoying something, and then people from outside that sphere come in, and eventually they kind of warp it to kind of make it normie shit, and then beyond that, it all kind of dies and decays. TF2's kind of dealing with that as of late. It kind of sucks, but at least the game is still good. It's really frustrating. Anyway, it's a selfish child's view of the world. It's through the lens of a lack of self-control, or a lack of preservation, a lack of restriction. A kid is gonna keep stuffing slices of cake into his mouth until he throws up. He doesn't know any better. They don't understand the concepts of restraint or moderation or enjoyment of quality over gluttony and quantity. They haven't learned those those concepts yet, until the ignorance of these key facets of life results in something negative, like burning their hand on a hot stove. To these people, they always want more, and the more you get, the less special something becomes, thus increasing the demand for even more to fire off the same level of dopamine, until your tummy hurts, until it makes you sick. These types of people engage with TF2 updates like how a toddler engages with Lego bricks. I mean, to a toddler, it's just a bunch of bricks. They play around with them, but they don't really know why. They just know that they're toys. It's a mess. There's no cohesion, there's no meaning, fuck it, it's just bricks, right? Older TF2 content, older updates, for those with a more meaningful level of engagement with the game, those who have adopted what TF2 is, they play with TF2 as if though it were a Lego set, a cohesive package with purpose, just like how updates used to be. They were meant to be something specific. They're fun to build, they're fun to enjoy in their novelty, their uniqueness, their theming. You appreciate it for what it is, and then set it aside as a complete product, and remember it for what it was. But to a toddler, you dump another bucket of bricks on top of that Lego set, it makes no difference to them. They don't understand the concepts of specificity or structure. It's simply more toys. And that's where we are with Scream Fortress. Maps, hats, unusual effects, everything. Just more stuff added to the pile, with nothing keeping it special or unique, other than the title, Scream Fortress slapped on top of it all. I do apologize, this did end up being more of a rant, but I wanted to get this off my chest, and I think I just did. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about all this. I'm curious if this is resonating with you as well, because all my friends are kind of sharing the same, they're all lamenting previous updates for similar reasons. Anyways, I'm gonna go finish my coffee, and I'm gonna put this together now and throw it up on YouTube. I'm not sure if I'm gonna put this on my second channel or not. It's pretty disorganized, but I don't know, at the same time, I feel like this is something that everyone should hear, but every time I hold that notion in my mind, it sometimes backfires, and then I get canceled again on Twitter, and it's like, oh, Zesty hates fucking TF2, he wants everything to die. That's not true. Fuck off. I like this game. I will keep saying I am very tired of the direction this game is going, but I still have fun with it, so I'm gonna keep playing it. So, anyway, I'm gonna finish my coffee. I'll see y'all later.